How's it going, buddy? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at another product from Athearn. We're looking at an Athearn Genesis EMD SD70 ACE in Union Pacific number 1995, the Chicago Northwestern Heritage Unit. And we're going to be taking a look at it today here on Elvis Junction Reviews. And now onto some history. Introduced in 2005 for heavy haul freight applications, the SD70 ACE was EMD's answer to the rise of the GE Evolution series of locomotives. Using AC traction, the locomotive produced 4,300 horsepower, and almost every Class 1 railroad has owned an SD70 ACE. Now, our locomotive here, UP 1995, is a heritage unit, and its heritage is the Chicago Northwestern Railroad, or Railway, whatever you choose. Now, the CNW, as it was known, was created on June 7th of 1859. And it was a Class 1 railroad. Now, in April of 1995, the UP purchased the Chicago Northwestern, and its assets became UP property. And a lot of them are still around, mostly SD40s and Jeeps. And also AC44s that the CNW purchased. A lot of them, though, have been repainted into UP colors. If I'm correct, one still exists in its CNW and its colors, but it's been patched over. Now, UP 1995 was unveiled on July 15th of 2006 and has been in active service ever since. She was in storage for a little bit, but when the 2020 decade came in, they pulled out of service. I have personally seen this locomotive. I have gotten very up close and personal with it. Almost I could have touched it, but unfortunately I was not going to do that. Saw it in Sacramento in 2022, leading the AMICH. I believe I got that right. And it was heading towards Milpitas, California with a empty auto rack train. And it was leading the train, which was even better. All right, so now that we've got history out of the way, let us get into some details, starting with the front. Alrighty, we are currently looking at the front of the locomotive. We're going to start from the top and work our way down the bottom, as we always do. Starting at the very top, we have our forehead mounted headlight right here, and that does light up and the locomotive is in motion. On either side of the headlight are the number boards that say 1995. Unfortunately, they do not light up, which is a shame. Then right there it says UP right here and right here. Those are just stenciled on. We have two little grab irons above the UP, one right there and then one right there. You can really see that one. There is one there. Here is the windshield, two big pieces of glass on either side of the nose, and four windshield wipers. They are separately applied. One right there, right here, and right here. Directly on the nose, if we focus on the nose here, you can see the grab iron just on the top of the nose. We have two grab irons, one right here and one right here as well. There is two sand filler hatches, one right here as well as right there. There's a grab iron right here as well. Looking at the nose right here, as you see, this is one of the logos that the CNW adopted. It says Northwestern and employee owned, where Chicago and then railroad would be. We have here's the door to lead to the inside of the locomotive. We have a grab iron right here, a grab iron right there, and a series of grab irons that lead their way to the top of the nose here, down to the walkway. That is the walkway light right there, which does not operate, unfortunately. Here are our ditch lights mounted on top of the anti-climber. They do activate when the locomotive is in motion. We have our handrails right here and the safety chain to keep you from falling off the front of the locomotive. Underneath the anti-climber, we have the coupler cut bar right here and a few of MU hoses and socket openings. We have our MU cables right here, three on either side of the plow. Here is the coupler. There's an air brake hose right there, and here is our plow right here. And there are two grab irons on the top of the plow, one right here and one right there. All right, so now let's look at some rear detail. Alrighty, so we're looking at the rear of the locomotive. At the very top here is a grab iron. It's a little bent out of shape, but that's okay. We have more grab irons working their way from the top of the locomotive down to the walkway right here, as you can see. They're not number boards, but they are numbers. UP 1995 on either side of the headlight here. Speaking of the headlight, there it is right there. There's a sand filler hatch right here, as well as right there. There's a little vented door here. I'm not sure what that does, but it opens up into the dynamic brake area, which is behind the headlight and all that. We have vertical handrails right there and one just right here. Then there's another grab iron right there. Handrails that extend the entire width of the locomotive. Here's the anti-climber, coupler cut bar right there, and it's also bent out of shape. So that's a no-no. right now. And as you can see, we have our coupler right here, the air brake hose, the MU cables, once again, 3 on either side of the coupler, and we have our spare knuckles. As you can see, this one is indicated to be for the front, and this one is indicated for the end of the locomotive. And that's pretty cool. And you can just see this lovely yellow and green and whites. Just a very, very great paint scheme. All right, now let's move on to the side of the locomotive. Looking at the side of the locomotive now, specifically we're looking at the conductor's side. Starting right here, we have a step light right there. You can just see it in the shadows. And here are the steps up to the front of the locomotive. Here is that grab iron I did mention earlier. There's a little safety plaque right there, a little safe that is illegible, unfortunately. We have a lovely UP 1995, and it says SD70 ACE and UP 1995 right below that. We have an electrical box right here. We have a sunshade right here above the windows, side windows, and unfortunately those are not moving. There is a separately applied windshield wiper right there, so if you had to back up, you can look through while it's raining. There's a little F to indicate this is the front of the locomotive, and it has a long white sill stripe, and some more illegible writing right there, as well as right there. And here is the great truck detail, as you can see, and the cool thing is these end bearing caps, they do roll, which is very nice. As you can see, there's the springs right there, and they do make it look like it's riding on rough rails. Now, if you look at the cab specifically, you will see that it is all one piece, and this is one of the earlier SD70 ACEs, which came with what was known as the Thunder Cab, and that turned out to be a very horrible mistake, as it would cause the train crews to go rather deaf, because the horn on an SD70 Ace is quite loud, and it is very loud. If you've ever stood near a railroad crossing when an ACE is leading, it is a very loud horn indeed. Now, moving on here, you can see the blower just up here on top of this electrical equipment, which is for the AC power. There are little handrails right here so you can climb on top, and this is you can see this large handrail that extends from the cab all the way to the other end. Right here is the exhaust port, and we'll get into that when we look at the top of the locomotive. And you can see a lift ring right here. Moving on to the middle of the locomotive, you can see the lovely K5HL air horn right here, which is known to hurt people's ears, including mine. The amazing Chicago Northwestern System logo, which is a very iconic logo in railroad terms. The large fuel tank right here, including the emergency stop and the fuel level indicator right here. As we move the locomotive forward towards the radiator section, you can see it says Proud Heritage, Powerful Future, Union Pacific Shield, and Building America. And there's a lot of illegible writing all along the side of the locomotive here. And as I just noticed, there's an EMD logo right there. And this is the jack pad right here, just above some more illegible writing. We have there's the radiator section right here with the very large radiator fans. And this is the dynamic brake fan area. Unfortunately, it's not see-through, which is kind of a downer, but that's okay. And you can actually see the ground light a lot better here, as it is painted yellow, as opposed to the dark green on the front of the locomotive, which is very cool indeed. And you can see those grab irons a lot easily more now. It's pretty much the same on the engineer's side. The only difference is there's not those large electrical boxes there. And there is a side door right here to access where the electrical compartment of all the electronics are for the locomotive to help it run. And if we move the locomotive forward, you can see the handbrake right here. Rotate that, and it will cause the locomotive to not move, essentially like the parking brake on your car. All right, so now let's look at some roof detail. Looking at the roof of the locomotive, you can see on the top of the cab is the PTC antenna array, and here's a nice thing. If I'm gentle, I can take the top of the roof off, drop it, and inside you can see the detail of the cab there. So there's the engineer's stand right here and his controls and all that, a spare seat for if you need to transport an extra person, and the conductor's seat right there. And you can actually see the lighting situation right here. There are lights right there, so it does seem that the number boards do light up. So we will see if they do light up during the demonstration. And as you can see, the roof of the cab is held on by these magnets. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at that. There they are right there. Unfortunately, this is only on EMD products that Athearn has released. I'm not sure why they can't do it on GEs. I think it just might be how the cab is shaped and the roof as well. But anyway, as we move the locomotive forward, you can see the exhaust stack right here. There's a little exhaust right there, a vent right here. And you can actually get a better look at the K5HL horn right here. Now, there's a variety of different horns that Aces have been given. Most common is the K5LLA, excuse me, and that is a very loud horn indeed. And as we move along here, you see the radiator section with these large radiator fans. There are actual metal fans inside there, but they do not spin. You can just see them in there. And then you can see the dynamic brakes section, which also is just a completely just covered plastic. And I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't do a kind of a fan section like on the radiator here. All right, so now let's get on to the sound demo. Alrighty, so as you can see, we have the locomotive here up on the test track. So let's go ahead and not waste any time, and let's put some power onto the track. Alright, so the locomotive is currently idling. Let's go on the main headlight, which is F0. As you can see, the light is on there. You can just see it though. F5 activates the ditch lights. They are on. The forward headlight is a little dim, which is a bit disappointing, but that's okay. F1 is the bell. F2 is a longhorn. F3 is a short horn. F4 is the dynamic brakes or straight to idle. Now, you can't do this unfortunately because of the lacking of the track and no layout to really run it on. But say if the locomotive was running, you would hear the dynamic brakes go on. F6 is a second lighting effect. I don't believe there's a second lighting effect, but let's find out. No, there is not. F7 is crew chatter, and also known as the dimmer. Now listen very closely, you will hear it, but it's very quiet, unfortunately. And it's very quiet. So let's go ahead and actually throw into reverse here and let it back up a bit. And now she's going to come back to you guys here. It's a little slower crawl here. All right, so let's get into my, actually let's turn it off here. Turn it off, that's off. All right, so now let's get into my final thoughts. All right, so I have to give this locomotive a solid A+. Apart from, actually no, I'll just give it an A. Let's give it an A-, actually, excuse me. Mostly because some of my grab irons were bent out of shape. I think the anti-climbers are a little bent downwards. I think just barely, I think they're bent downwards a little bit, which is kind of a shame. I did see on somebody's story on Instagram, their anti-climber was almost coming off, which was kind of bad. And then another issue I had is that the blister package on top of the clamshell was rather small. I did struggle to pull the clamshell out of the blister package, which was kind of, that should not be happening. But anyway, I still like this locomotive. It still looks great and it sounds great. And I recommend you, if you can, try to get one. I got mine off of Lombard Hobbies. I'll put a link in the description to their website. I think they have at least maybe 2 or 1 more in stock, so I would hurry and get one if you can. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please hit that like button. Also subscribe if you have not. And hit that notification bell to know when I upload next. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.